So guys, on today's video, we're gonna be doing a full stage 3 parts list breakdown as far as how to build a stage 3 Audi A3. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Thank you so much for stopping in. For anybody new, feel free, hit that subscribe button down below. We've got an excellent library of automotive content. Your support is much appreciated. So on to our topic for today's video, guys. We're going to be covering everything it takes in terms of hardware and software products to build a full bolt-on stage 3 Audi A3. Now guys, please keep in mind, today's video, we're going to be only covering the Audi A3 Quattro with the 2-liter motor. So we're not going to be covering the 1.8 front-wheel drive versions of the Audi A3. Again, this build is strictly applicable to a 2-liter Quattro model for the A3. So let's go ahead and cover our basic hardware performance parts. So again, looking at our starting point for the Audi A3 Quattro with the 2.0T, your stock turbocharger is going to be the IS20. Now, going full bolt-ons, stage 2 with an IS20 car, you're probably going to max out at around 320, 330-ish horsepower, depending on your fuel availability. If you want to make the most out of one of these cars, you're just going to have to go with the bigger turbo. So at the very minimum, guys, we're going to be including for this list a stock IS38 turbo. Now, it's totally up to you if you decide to go with an OEM off-the-shelf standard IS38 from Audi, which you can usually pick up for around $1,000, $1,200 give or take, or you can decide to go with like an OEM plus replacement, something you may find from companies, for example, like HPA Motorsports makes an OEM plus drop-in IS38 turbo. Now, just to set the expectation here, guys, the IS38 is by no means a big turbo. It's just a little bit larger than the stock IS20. If you'd like a little bit more information going into more specific detail, I'll be sure to leave a link right up here to the Stage 3 Project A3 build we did on our last project car, 2016 Audi A3 Quattro. Looking at the IS20 versus the IS38, the IS38 obviously has a much larger turbocharger housing, so you're going to get more air. You're ultimately going to be able to produce more power. So next on the list for our hardware bolt-ons, you're going to need some type of heat exchanger. It's always very important to address cooling when looking to build up your turbo car. You want to maximize gains by cutting down on heat soak. Once you start pushing more power on these cars, the factory plastic tube and fin intercooler is just not going to cut it. The most important thing really when it comes to intercoolers is stick with a well-known name brand. You don't want to mess with anything as far as Chinese knockoffs. You want quality fitment, you want a solid construction, so that's always going to be something that needs to be taken care of. So always make sure to pick up an aftermarket, reputable brand intercooler. Moving on to exhaust, guys. As far as downpipes, you could technically run an IS38 turbocharger with a stock downpipe. If you're going full send, trying to make the absolute most power out of a package like this, you're of course going to make more power with the aftermarket downpipe. But once again, that's really up to the choice of the individual. So moving on to air intakes, guys. The stock airbox will get the job done. There's nothing wrong with sticking with the factory air intake for running an IS38 turbo car, but if you want to take a look at some different aftermarket performance upgrades, there are plenty of companies that make some really nice high-end aftermarket carbon intakes. Looking at different designs, I personally would stick with a closed style air intake. That way you're not going to be pulling in all that hot engine bay air. Totally up to the person. I'll leave a link right up here looking at the differences between the open style versus closed style air intakes on the Project A3 build. Now, another component commonly overlooked on this platform would be the turbo inlet pipe. This little small elbow piece from factory is pretty small diameter, pretty restrictive. So again, if you're going for all-out power, I would strongly recommend picking up an aftermarket turbo inlet elbow. There are plenty of options with aftermarket inlet pipes. You can go with the usual name brands, APR, IE, Unitronic. Take your pick. They're all pretty much going to accomplish the same thing. Another department commonly overlooked, guys, ignition. This is a big one. You got to take this seriously if you want your car to run correctly. I would go ahead and grab yourself a set of RS7 plugs. Again, that's one heat range colder than stock. Most aftermarket performance software brands are typically going to advise one-step colder plugs, change every 10 to 15,000 miles. Also make sure to check those gap specs for the best possible results. Now moving on to ignition coils, guys, you could run the stock coils. They will be enough to get the job done. I've been pretty well satisfied with the APR ignition coils. There are other brands that make similar replacements as well. Totally up to the person. You pick whatever you feel is best. On our Project Audi A3, again, stage 3 full bolt-on package, always had great results running the RS7 plugs with the APR ignition coils. And if you guys need to pick up any parts, I will be sure to leave all applicable links in the description box down below. Now guys, moving on to ECU software, this is another department where it really depends on the person. I always suggest stick with your well-known, reputable brands in terms of aftermarket performance software. I've always had great results with APR, but once again, I encourage you guys, do your own independent research. You take the time, figure out comparing different options, weigh your choices side by side, and ultimately it's up to you to choose whatever software you decide to go with. So again, name brands. If you go off-the-shelf software, there's APR, Unitronic, IE. You stick with whatever works best for you. You're obviously making some pretty drastic changes in terms of your bolt-ons, so you're obviously gonna have to have software to tell the car what it needs to do, making those adjustments to run the new IS38 Turbo. And moving on, guys, you always have to make sure to match the appropriate DSG tune. I can't stress this enough, guys. I've talked about this on plenty of other videos in the past. You've got a lot more torque. You're gonna have to tell the transmission what it needs to do to keep up that clutch clamping pressure, so you're not gonna have slippage on that DSG transmission. So once again, you always wanna match your ECU and TCU software. So that's pretty much gonna cover everything you need in terms of hardware and software products to do a full Stage 3 package for an Audi A3 Quattro 2.0T. Definitely a great option, simple plug and play, direct fit, turnkey solution. You're not going to worry about any problems. But once again, if you have the desire to make big boy power, you want to go with an IS38 hybrid, you want to look at doing a custom tune, if you want to do fueling upgrades, totally up to the person. But for the sake of today's video, guys, I want to give you a quick, simple breakdown in terms of a standard off-the-shelf Stage 3 upgrade on an A3 Quattro. So looking at the complete package here as far as a Stage 3 IS38 swapped Audi A3 Quattro, it's a really fantastic car for the money. If you take a look at the average market value for buying an A3, it's got pretty clean, low miles. You can get these cars for a great price. Looking at the cost difference between the A3 and the S3, you can definitely save yourself a sizable chunk of change by picking the A3, as the upfront cost is so much less. The S3, of course, all around is gonna be a better car, but it certainly comes with a heftier price tag. So as far as like a great, economical, fun, sporty, entry-level, compact luxury sedan, you just can't beat the A3. It's just such a fantastic car. You can make some excellent power, ripping around, launch control's fantastic. I've shown you guys the results. We've done draggy tests using launch control. I have to say, it's pretty respectable when you can get a car to do 0 to 60 under 4 seconds for such a reasonable price point. So I hope you guys find all this information helpful. Definitely want to take the time to give you guys a detailed breakdown for all the A3 guys out there making the most out of these cars. Excellent platform. I think you're going to be pretty well satisfied with this upgrade. Well, thank you guys so much for checking out today's video. I really appreciate all the support. Leave a comment down below. Hit the video with a thumbs up. It definitely helps improve the visibility of the channel. Thank you guys once again. I appreciate all the support. I'll be sure to see you all in the next one. Have a great day.